Good morning. It is Coach Darcy here, starting a little early. I have no idea what that introductory was, but I played it. I don't know. But hey, it's Tuesday morning and it is voting day. So apparently, I'm hearing that the polls here in Indiana are on the quiet side. So if you have any intention of practicing your right to vote, then go out and do that today. That was just my little plug. I planned on doing that before I went on live, but yeah, I was like, "Oh no, that's only giving me 30 minutes. I've got to hop on here." So I decided to hop on here a little bit earlier. And so, hi, welcome. If you wouldn't mind, share this out with your friends so that that algorithm wall like gets to be broken and people get to hear what Coach Monica and I have to say. Coach Monica is not here because she, speaking of voting poll booth places, is working one of those. So she is being a good citizen and helping out with that and volunteering. So I was like, okay, I did this alone last week because she was on vacation. I am doing this alone again this week and I miss her. But we're going to talk about great things today. In fact, before I move forward, I'm going to share this out with people. And if you, again, wouldn't mind, please share this out as well. I'm also going to turn off my phone instead of watching this because I have a 2-hour limitation on my Facebook page and on my social media because I find myself doing doom scrolling all the time. Anybody else doom scroll? That's where what the youngsters like to call uh, getting in rabbit holes and just watching dumb video after dumb video after dumb video. Hopefully this is not a dumb video. I don't want to categorize myself and the content that I'm creating today as a dumb video. But it's going to be good. I think it's going to be good. Because we're going to be talking about today why we keep restarting our diets and what nobody is telling you when you do that. So, this talks a lot about what we, hit on last week, about the tables. Oh, maybe that was a podcast. We did a podcast. So we're launching podcasts on Tuesdays. So if you want to go check out our podcast, I'm not sure if the one we recorded this last week is for this Tuesday, but it's a new season 3, and new episodes are going to be following that season 3. And we kind of pinpointed on, I'll just kind of do a little spoiler alert. We talked about the balancing of a table, which may sound bizarre, but we're like, or just like making sure, how your table needs to be balanced. You need to have equal side legs, and a foundation needs to be balanced in order to not be a rocky table. So we talk about the mental, emotional, spiritual, and social side of our lifestyles. And that's what we're going to pinpoint a little bit today, like I said. So again, please share this out. Let me, know that you're on and watching. Say hello. What you do in this week? Did you vote? I don't know. Whatever you want to share on here. Um, that might be an open-ended like a thing I just asked for you to do because who knows what you're going to share. I want you to share everything, but I want you to share how you're doing. Anyway. So, here we go. Let's be honest here. How many of you have said, "I'm starting over Monday. I screwed up. I'm starting over Monday." I'm pretty sure a lot of us have, especially when it comes to anything. It doesn't have to be about a diet. It can be about workout. It could be about, oh my goodness. Speaking of workout, like if I am not held accountable to get to my workout, um, I'm going to straighten my screen here, and that doesn't really work out for both my accountability partner and I. It is so easy to just be like, oh, I don't have to go today either. If she can't go, then I'll say, oh, I don't have to go. I'll just do it Monday. I will skip today and I'll go Monday. But then by Monday, you feel awful. And when you're in the gym, it's like you have forgotten how to lift weights, like you have forgotten how to run, walk, climb those darn stairs that the devil created himself, the stair climber. I call that the devil's machine because I hate the stair climber. That's passionate. It's legit. But how many of you, have said, I'm going to start over Monday? Is that a bad thing? No, because you're restarting. It's, you recognize that, yeah, I made a mistake. I'm just going to, start over, wipe it clean, start over Monday. But how many times are we doing that? Are we doing that on a weekly basis? Are we doing that on a daily basis? Are we doing that on like you work so far into your goals that you do it every, 40 days or 60 days? Oh, I'm just going to start over. The main point here that I'm about to talk about is that this is not necessarily a food problem. It's a pattern problem. And what I mean about it's a pattern problem is that when we do not focus on the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual side of a lifestyle change, it is going to be a pattern problem. People know what to eat. They know how to read the signals from their stomachs. Their stomachs are going to either say I'm hungry or I'm not hungry. Then you'll get into that idea of, well, am I being like I just ate? Am I bored eating or am I not bored eating? And let's face it, keto works until life hits. Keto works because it's scientifically proven that mixture of food choices helps, reverse all these ailments. So if it's helping you reverse all these ailments, then we wonder why can I not keep going? Why do I keep having to start over? Why do I keep giving in? Because life is hitting. You're not taking care of the social aspect. So I did mention about the spiritual, mental, emotional, but you've got the social aspect that you have to be very concerned about too, because you don't want to have the FOMO. I talk about that very often. Is, the biggest mistake with people is that they have fear of missing out with the traditions that they've built over the time, with the birthday parties, the gatherings, the vacations. You don't want to miss out on all that scrumptious food. And let me just tell you, when you are doom scrolling, how many of you end up stopping at those reels that show you the delicious desserts or how to make this delicious dessert that is super easy, and you just do like I remember those dump cakes where you just put your own pre-made bag of cake mix and then dump a whole bunch of things in there, and that's your dump cake. It's delicious, it's easy, it's convenient, it sounds good. The newest one is this, what is it? My son loves it where you have like your mic and it's like that sensitive sound, the ASL or ACL or something with the sound of the mic. But people are eating crunchy foods. I can't. For those that can't handle hearing people chew and chomp, which is me. I'm sorry. I'm hearing you slosh around that food and not really have a care in the world. That drives me insane, especially like when they're biting into it. That's fine, the first crunch, but then they're like, that's like, oh, can't. I don't know. That turns me off on that, the sound of it. But that is something that is luring. It's almost as if when you go into the grocery store and you've got all of the sweet treats, the sodas, the ultra processed foods are always at the end caps or at the front of the store. Or like before you are getting ready to check out, oh, here's this. Like if you were good and not picking something up this whole entire time in the store, let me give you one more opportunity at the checkout. One more opportunity to pick up that Snicker bar. One more opportunity to pick up those gummy worms. Yeah, there is a reason for that, because we're suckers. But when stress and boredom and loneliness hits in as well, you got those triggers. You got the triggers that then that neural pathway in your brain is starting to like say, hey, I need some dopamine. I need it. Give it to me. I love the sound of the crunch of popcorn. I love the sound of the opening of a bag. I love the sound of a soda pop being opened. Those are triggers and tells your brain to be alert. I'm bored. I'm not thinking of something else. So instead of doing something else, I'm going to go fulfill my need. So that restart cycle is really the biggest issue of all. And, you start strong. Here's the cycle. Okay. You start strong. Life happens. You find the exit ramp. That exit ramp brings you then guilt of like, why did I do this? You can't do anything right. How many times do you have to restart? You're beating yourself up. And then you then say, okay, this is my last time I'm going to restart. But if you are forgetting those other patterns that you're forgetting about, then you're going to end up restarting anyway. That cycle is strong. It doesn't matter what kind of lifestyle that you're in. If you're whatever goals, this goes for anybody out there that is just focusing on health and lifestyle change, and why you are not sticking to a plan. And the reason why we chose keto is because it's more sustainable. You're eating whole foods, y'all. You're not eating ultra processed foods. You're making better choices. You have a variety of foods. You're just making wiser choices. That is why we choose keto. The other ones may not be sustainable. That may be why you keep having a restart cycle. You may figure, oh, well, I'm been eating this meal plan that somebody's given me, and I've done, and it's only like, 900 calories a day. So yeah, you're going to lose weight to a certain point, but then your body's going to be like, whoa, I need more energy, and this is not enough for me. I'm going to start making you feel miserable. I'm going to start pulling the energy from other places and borrowing it. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to store this fat because I'm afraid I'm not going to get any more energy or calories or fats to replace it with, or to recycle it out, or it goes on fear mode, that fight or flight mode, when you are eating calories that are less than 1,200 calories a day. You need to feed your body, y'all. That was a side note. But this cycle keeps people stuck for years. How many diets, how many lifestyles have you started and never finished? Or have you started and then said, okay, I got to my goal. Now what? What am I going to do? How many times are you going to keep staying stuck in that cycle? It happens for many years. It happens maybe once for you. For me, it was, I can recall at least 2 or 3 times where I tried, getting healthier, and I was not in that phase of reality that the choices that I was making is not going to help me lose the weight. The mental, social, and emotional portion of it, that FOMO, I had a lot of FOMO. I was rewarding myself. I would say, you know what? Every girl's night, I am going to allow myself to eat whatever I want. I'm going to eat those French fries. I'm going to have that drink. I'm going to, do this thing with my girls. But at first it was once a month, and then it started out every week because I did not fix the root problem. I kept allowing myself those things that were, hitting that dopamine. I was rewarding myself. And, that one little mistake set me back a big whole bunch. Which brings me back to the sorry game that I talked about, I think, last week. If you missed that last week, I talked about an analogy of, uh, the game of sorry. I'm sure there's other board games out there where you have to, like Monopoly, when you land on go to jail, then you got to go to jail for at least 2 rounds or pay up. Sorry is a very similar way of, like, you have to always be at start until you get to you're rolling your dice, you're going certain things, but when that board says one thing, it makes you go back home. It makes you go back 2 spaces, or it gives you, a boost to go forward. When you are working hard, those are like the ideas of the hard work that you're putting in to getting to where you are. Sometimes there are little setbacks. Sometimes you do have to set back, 3 spaces backwards. But you get to roll again to then go forward and make up for that. That's why we talk about the 80-20 rule. We're talking about not perfection, we're talking about consistency. We're talking about, moving forward, even in the chaos, even in the muck that we're in, not giving in and just binge eating then. That binge eating is sending you back home. So when you roll that dice or that land on that space that says go back home, that's kind of like your idea of now, even though you may have been at your home base, you are almost home, you're almost there, you can still end up having to go back to the start spot. And that's going to make you go, all that hard work is now for nothing. You got to restart. Then you have to do that whole thing again by getting a 1 or a 2 to be able to get out of start even. So I'm comparing this with stop doing all this hard work just to go back to the start. Do all this hard work so that you can be at home and be in that space where you know that this lifestyle is giving you freedom, where you know that you now have this mental clarity. We just got news from a client the other day that he no longer has to, his A1C went from very high to very low. He no longer has to take insulin. He was going into major health issues. He lost a lot of weight while doing this, but he was going in for not having to be on this insulin, to not lose limbs because of diabetes. Y'all, you can reverse. You can work hard. You can do these things for your health problems. You can stay focused. But then if you're not working, even if you're not working on the mental, so the social, the physical, the emotional portion of your lifestyle, all of those pillars together, if you're not working on all of those together at the same time, you might find yourself back at start. Even if you have already hit home, at the base of home, and you're seeing it, it's right there. There is something, if you're not working on the social things of life, you are going to find yourself back at start because you have not worked hard at working through the garbage that you've been collecting over the years. And why you got to even where you got. Why did you gain the weight? Why did you begin to have health issues? Why did you start to depend on ultra-processed food, going through the drive-thrus all the time? Because you're not focused on yourself. You're not pre-planning. You're not preparing. So there's just a lot of truths here. And I'm not saying that everybody has all of those things. I think some people can have one or another. Some people do have, all of these things that I speak about. But initially, the only time that you can consider yourself selfish with your health and focusing on doing positive and better things is when you are drained and you're just giving your family the leftovers. When you find yourself giving your family the leftovers of you, then that is a selfish thing. And I think that and this, I'm speaking for myself. When I gained the weight that I did, when I focused on the delightful food that I loved, the ultra processed, the easy, the sugar binges that I would have, when I was a little girl, I would spend my whole paycheck on candy and I would binge eat that candy. I would have nothing else until that candy was gone. Or even like chips. I think that as well. But I would spend a whole paycheck on that. And I know based off of the fact that I have done the hard things, I have worked on journaling, I have done OA, Overeaters Anonymous, all those things. I realized that was a start of my food addiction. I realized that is how small I was when I first started having a food issue. When you are able to identify that, when you are able to work through that, you become free from those chains. I like the phrase, when you bring it to light, this is in the Bible, when you bring it to light, darkness has no power over it, because when light is in the room, darkness can't hide. Your sins, your addictions, the things you depend on that are causing you to stumble, those are brought to light, and so they have no power over you. So not only did I go through Overeaters Anonymous, but I was, going through the 12 steps like AA, and I acknowledged it. I went through it. I even was vulnerable and shared it with someone that is a trusted person. It was a very vulnerable moment. It was huge, but that set me free, knowing that these things in my life do not have a hold of me anymore, because not only am I not keeping it a secret into myself and feeling guilty and building up that pressure and depression and anxiety and worry and fear, but I have let it go. And now that allows you to then get moving, to get going forward, and to stay on track without having to go back to the start. When you realize that you're not alone in this department, there's a lot of people who struggle. There's a lot of people who have not acknowledged that food has a hold of them because they love the ultra processed foods so much, because of what those ultra processed foods do to our bodies. It's not fair to them because of what, our country likes to do with our food and mess with chemicals. We won't go down that rabbit hole. But this is why it's important to deal with these issues, with these, I call them the junk that you sweep under the rug, like, oh, it's not a big deal, I'll deal with it later, or it's not such a big deal that anybody needs to know about it, so I'm just going to shove it under here. I've also used the junk closet analogy, where you just keep shoving something in your junk closet until the door can't close. The same with the rug. The rug is a certain size. It's not going to grow with your mess. It's just going to start heaping. And then the ugliness is going to start peeking out. Because when the ugliness peeks out, that's when your ailments start to occur. That's when the things that you feel start to happen, like maybe become a little bit more emotionally sensitive, where you're insecure, where you're letting that insecurity then roll into the next form of your life, which then makes you want to withdraw from people, which then causes you to be mentally challenged in some aspects. I'm not saying that's necessarily truth for everyone, but I think everything has a domino effect on it, especially, and it all starts at the root of what we're feeding our bodies. And that's what I wholeheartedly believe. So, why is discipline alone not going to fix our problem? Because anybody can do anything for 30 days. Anybody can do anything for 60 days. When you get to that 3-month mark, that's why we like to have you in our 3-month program, because once you hit that 3-month mark, you enter a new season of like, is this what this is? I'm just doing the same thing over and over and over again. Or life actually starts to happen, where maybe the season, the first month that you decided to start a program, you had a lot of empty spaces, and I'll have free time for this. This is all right. I'm good to go. And then month 2 one or two things starts to pop into your schedule, and then you have to kind of learn about that. But then when month 3 comes, you might have a vacation coming up. You might have a baby shower come up. You might have a wedding that you've got to have. So life starts to throw you curveballs. In my world, we've got golf and baseball. And that's not just one person in golf, or we got one person in golf doing 2 different golfs now. We got 2 kids in baseball. It takes up a lot of time. Sometimes they overlap. Those things kind of make you stressed out when things on your schedule start to overlap. That's why white knuckling food choices is not going to heal the root, because when you have those things in your life, yeah, you're going to end up going through the drive-through. You're going to end up going through that often. Or before, when you don't have anything going on, you can pre-plan. You can pre-plan what you're going to have for that week. You can prepare that food so that you don't feel like you have to go through that drive-through. You can pack your lunch or pack a snack, things like that. White knuckling food, white knuckling your journey, your lifestyle change is not the best way to go about things. If those emotions are not addressed, food becomes the coping tool. I'm going to say that again. If emotions are not addressed, you're going to depend on that food to fill that gap. And usually when you are not in the right state of mind, fatigue, stress, worry, even happiness, if you have these emotions that speak really loud and you are not addressing those emotions when they occur, you're going to go back to your old ways of feeding, giving your brain what it wants with that dopamine trigger. I mean, like getting that dopamine trigger, you know, your brain knows what certain foods do what to you. Some people like sour things. That's the thing that makes their glands just to salivate. I like the theory here of like when you are handed like the same nut. We're gonna say pistachios. This shows me like the thing that what our body truly craves. So if you're craving, since we're talking about cravings, since your food is saying, "Hey, I really want some pistachios," go get me some pistachios. Now, pistachios are fine. They're a decent nut, but too many of them, they're high in carbs as well. But usually when we're getting the pistachios, we're going to probably get the unshelled ones that are salted, because those shells are annoying to crack open. Maybe if you like to crack them open, that's one thing. I kind of like to do that because it helps me eat them slower. But if you're going towards pistachios that are salted and have a coating on them versus handing you some that are maybe, again, unshelled but unsalted, if you try both, which ones are you going to lean towards the most? My guess is that when your glands start to salivate, it's wanting the salt. Our bodies, I was just doing a study in Matthew. We just went through the Beatitudes at the Sermon of the Mount, and God or Jesus like is talking about being salt, and how salt is it can lose its saltiness. Now, the science of salt, I had to dive into the science of salt. I understand where Jesus was talking about with the salt, but our bodies thrive on salt. Our bodies need salt. And this is what I went over with my studies. Like, our bodies need a large portion of salt, because if it doesn't have enough, your nerves are going to be affected, your brain function is going to be affected, your the cells that hold those carbohydrates, all those things, all of those are going to be affected when you don't have salt, which then affects your heart, which then affects your dizziness, which then affects nausea, all of these things, all because of salt, the importance of salt. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, that is why when we are craving something, maybe it's just something that needed, having some electrolytes or salt, but maybe not pairing that salt with a food choice that's not good. That was my point with that. That kind of went on a tangent right there. But salt is so important for when we are trying to reverse our problems with going to the ultra processed foods to trigger that dopamine. Maybe that dopamine just needed that salt, not the chocolate. The salt enhances flavors of something, but your body really just wants that salt, especially if you've already had a meal, especially if you've already, fulfilled that. So what actually works, what's my secret sauce, is what I'm telling you through this whole thing. is building awareness. Why did I go off plan to begin with? What was the thing that caused me to go off plan? What is in my environment that is causing me to be triggered? Who is speaking to me often that's making me feel emotional and not in a good way? That is building awareness. And I'll show you mine. Get yourself a journal, y'all. Get it out of your head. I talk about this all the time. If you are going through rough roots, where the roots are just feeling like they're tangling up and they are suffocating you, it's get it out of your head. A lot of counselors will tell you to do that. A lot of, life coaches will tell you to do that, because I always like to think of it as this. If you're playing with slime, you got a brand new thing of slime and you're rolling it around in things. Maybe you're patting it on the table, but then it starts to pick up, some garbage that was on the table that wasn't wiped away. The germs on your hand then start to discolor the slime. All this slime starts to absorb all this random things that it picks up around it. That is how I picture what happens when we keep things in our brains, in our minds. The mind is like slime that starts to take in and alter your belief about something, alter a situation, put some bigger emotions into that. Start to assume what this person's thinking. That is like the slime ball that I'm talking about. It's starting to collect garbage when before it was just, simple problem. It was just a simple, it was just maybe your donuts. Somebody brought in a donut and it looked really good and you're trying to avoid donuts and they meant no harm. But really, when you keep it in your head, you're probably thinking, oh, this person's trying to sabotage me. They don't want me to lose weight. They're going to be real sad if I don't eat that donut because they went out and they bought it, but are they sabotaging me? That's what I'm talking about. Those are the assumptions, the things that go on in our brains. But if we're writing it out, if we're putting it in our notebook, we then can connect the dots. We then can say, oh, you know what? Actually, when I first wrote this person told me yesterday that they were going to bring donuts for everybody, and I didn't say no. So I already set myself up for failure because they bought me a donut and I didn't say no beforehand because I forgot to get back with him. Something as simple as that. So you can see, in my office, somebody, during Christmas time, I hear this all the time. In those offices spaces, they bring Christmas treats in, cookies, treats that they've made, and they bring it into the break room. When you notice that this is a repeat thing every single year, what are you going to do in your environment to then fix that so you don't go off plan? So instead of, another thing is creating tools instead of rules. A lot of these programs out there have these rules. They have these meal plans that they've created, and you follow this step by step by step, and you eat this and this and this and this. And you, instead of when you get stuck with a problem, like if you're going with keto, let's just go with keto because that's what we do. When you get stuck with keto, we like to bring in tools, not rules. Like, oh, you're doing keto wrong, or oh, you're doing this wrong. You broke this rule with keto. We like to bring in those tools that you can use. Like I see that Sansi said, sardines. That is a tool that some of my, our clients are using right now because it's something that they read somewhere else and they're trying it and they feel good on it. It's a tool. They're not going to eat sardines for the rest of their life to keep that weight off. They're going to use sardines as a tool to, every now and again shake things up. That's why they do that. So we have got to work on the mental, our thought patterns. That's what I'm saying through this whole thing, our thought patterns. We have got to work on the emotional triggers. And when I say emotional triggers, When somebody constantly is talking to you and you respond in a certain way that you don't like, and to fix that emotion, you've originally gone to that end cap that has that Snicker bar because you're like, I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm so done. I can't believe they said that. You've got an emotional high. You are putting a weakness into what you have maybe haven't built. You haven't built the strength of knowing how to deal with the emotional side. So you're going to currently lean into those emotions and lean into the food that is going to numb your brain for at least 30 minutes. But in the meantime, you've eaten all those calories, all that sugar that is now feeding your body in a negative way. And then you got your social. When you struggle with your social, I talk about, what does your environment look like? You have all control about what your environment looks like and what you see, but you have to prepare for it. In your house, how do you have things set up in your house? We talk in James Clear, the make it appealing. So if you have cookies set out on your counter, you're going to see those cookies and say, I want a cookie. If you have, say, maybe a bowl of walnuts on your table instead, you're going to see that bowl of walnuts. You're going to ask yourself, am I going to really want these walnuts? Do I want them enough to have some walnuts? Or, you're setting your social space up for success. The spiritual side, your identity and purpose. By golly, we go through this life maybe on a daily basis wondering what our purpose is. Why are we here on this earth? The thing that got me with the identity portion and the purpose is that we have personally, with our choices that we've made over the years, we have put an end cap on what we're capable of doing, what we are identifying ourselves as. Like, I identify myself as a weak person versus I identify myself as somebody who is a powerhouse, who's not afraid of anything. We set those standards for ourselves. We also let our social environment set those standards for ourselves. And I'm pretty sure we let the social environment around us speak into our lives more than that we really want or really should have happen. That develops our identity. That develops our purpose. My whole purpose in life changed when I got rid of my 70 pounds. When I chose that I'm done with this garbage food. I don't like that, our government likes to allow these food companies to poison us. I don't like that. I'm going to stand up for that. I'm going to eat healthier. I'm going to eat whole foods. I'm going to focus on that. When I gained that and I gained this new clarity, this new energy, this new excitement for life, I was not chained. I was not bound. I was not feeling guilty for my food choices that I made because it didn't leave room for that. My identity before was I am a stay-at-home mom that's depressed and has to stay at home all day with the kids, and I have no purpose. So I'm constantly trying to do something that makes me have a purpose. But no matter what I do, I still don't have a purpose, even though my purpose was being a mother. Even though my purpose was also to teach my children the things that they needed to know, I didn't see value in that. When our society is saying that, if you're just a stay-at-home mom, you don't have any value, that's what I'm going to read. That's what I'm going to believe about myself. That's what I'm going to accept as my identity. But instead, when I lost that 75 or 70 pounds, I had a clear mind. I had a moment where I was able to have a fresh start, be unchained, and have this freedom and do things that I thought were impossible for myself. This freedom of insecurity, that took me places that I thought I'd never go. I was actually able to listen to the Lord and and have him tell me what he wanted me to do next for, serving within the church, to be an inspiration to, these young girls that are in youth group. I never saw myself as that. I was too comfortable in my own home to get out at Sunday night. I liked my Sunday nights. But you know what? I wouldn't change it for the world. I have a new identity. I have a new purpose. I have an understanding that, Christ is my identity. But that's not for everybody, apparently. I don't know. Anyway, point of this whole thing, I've gone long. I don't know how long I'm on here. I don't even know if I'm still live. I'm just still babbling. This is why I need a coach to kind of say, like, it's time. Let's chop it off. Although she's long-winded too. Here's a moment where I want you to hear. If you didn't hear anything at all that I said, maybe you heard some snippets here and there. If you're rewatching this, rewatch this. I would love for you to rewatch this. I would love for you to share this out to your page. I feel like out there that somebody needs to hear this. I feel like somebody out there needs to, even if it is, understanding that they still have room to grow, to form an identity that they, didn't just cap off like, oh, I can't do that. So I'm not going to claim that as my identity, even though you can. You don't need another diet. You don't need to be stuck in the cycle. You don't need to stay broken and feel like you have to guilt trip yourself yet again. You just need a different way of living, a different way of working through things. And I tell you this at the bottom of my heart. Doing a new diet, even keto, even carnivore, even paleo, even Atkins or whatever, what have you, whatever is the new fad out there. You cannot lose weight long term and feel good about yourself and confident and proud of yourself if you do not work on those other pillars. If you are not working out, I'm saying this because if you hadn't listened to any of my other our other podcasts or live streams, working on one leg at a time is going to keep that table wobbly. It's a balance of working with all of those things at the same time so that your table the whole time is level and steady. So when you put something on that, it's not going to roll off. It's not going to go off the exit ramp. What is one time of day that you struggle the most? Is it morning? Is it afternoon? Is it at night? Where do you find yourself struggling? And that is a good way to start really focusing on these tools instead of rules, right? Other than that, hey, thanks for sticking by. This was a long message for you all, but I really, really hope that if you need help, you reach out, because the thing that becomes overwhelming is that you say, yeah, I need help. I need to work through this. Doing it by myself, that's another story. So what I'm saying is there's 2 coaches that we have right now that are free to help, you basically simplify your to-do list so that it doesn't seem so overwhelming and that you're able to make it happen with ease instead of stressing out over it. And I'm going to tell you, this is not an instant gratification program. This is not, I'm going to repeat, this is not an instant gratification program. This program is meant for long-term, slow and steady weight loss, slow and steady metabolic health reversal. Sometimes our ailments reverse real quick. We've seen it. Sometimes they heal slowly. But the way that we do it with our program is it's sustainable, and you'll see improvements every single year, every single month. You're going to see it. And if you're not seeing it, then we show you another way to see it, because that means that you're focused too much on the scale. So, with that being said, now I have got to somehow figure out how to end this stream with success and using the right one to say goodbye. Until next week, I'm hoping that Coach Monica is back. I'm hoping that when she comes back, we'll talk about something more exciting. I don't know what that would be. But please go like, follow, and share. Go to our podcast drop at Beyond the Scale Health and Wellness. You'll find it on any of your streaming devices. And with that being said, I will chat at y'all later. Toodles.